A masked figure quietly enters apartment unit 11. The place is a mess. When the figure steps into the bathroom, a horrifying discovery is revealed: a body that has been melted inside the bathtub. The figure quickly takes photos, then triggers the fire alarm before disappearing without a trace. The story then jumps back 56 days before that body was ever found. This is 56 days. On day 1, we see how everything begins. Inside a supermarket, a woman named Ciara Wise is busy shopping, unaware that a man named Oliver Kennedy has been watching her closely with clear interest. Fate seems to step in when they accidentally bump into each other.
Oh, sorry.
That small moment becomes the perfect opening for Oliver to start a conversation. The two quickly hit it off. Their conversation flows naturally, especially when they realize they share a deep interest in space and astronomy. It turns out both of them have just moved to Boston for work. Ciara works as an IT technician, while Oliver's an architect. Before parting ways, they exchange phone numbers, setting up the possibility of meeting again. The timeline then shifts to the present. Detective Lee Reardon is at Detective Carl's house when she receives a call about a suspected murder at an apartment complex called The Crossings. The two immediately head to the scene. When they arrive, officers inform them that a fire alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning. At first, it was assumed to be a false alarm until a foul smell began spreading from Unit 11. The property manager, Kevin, explains that he does not know who lives in that unit, since it is used for business and frequently changes occupants. Lee inspects the damaged fire alarm and decides to check the unit herself, where she is immediately hit by the overwhelming stench. Meanwhile, Carl requests CCTV footage and a list of residents from Kevin. The story then moves to day 3. Oliver is now living in Unit 11 and getting ready for a date with Ciara. He receives a new driver's license with a Boston address and throws away his old one, which had a different last name, clearly trying to erase his past. Later, he invites Ciara to meet him at an upscale bar. They sit down and start getting to know each other better. However, Ciara quickly notices something is off. Oliver claims he has never been there before, yet the staff treats him like a regular. The mood shifts slightly when Ciara mentions she does not like secrets. Oliver becomes uncomfortable and excuses himself to the restroom. While there, he leaves a voice message for his psychotherapist, Dan Traxler, admitting that his condition has started acting up again. Unknown to him, a red-haired woman nearby overhears the conversation and watches him in a strange, unsettling way. After returning, Oliver abruptly decides to end the date. But before letting Ciara leave, he suddenly kisses her with intense passion. He apologizes for his behavior, though Ciara does not seem bothered by his aggressiveness. On day 4, we get a glimpse into Ciara's real life. She lives in a rundown apartment infested with termites. Her sister, Shahila, calls her and refers to her by a different name, Megan. During the conversation, it is revealed that their mother is mentally unstable. Shahila takes care of their mother, while Ciara is responsible for supporting them financially. Elsewhere, Oliver is seen giving a presentation at work. His boss, Elliot Berhane, praises his performance and encourages him to step forward with more confidence, reminding him that this is a fresh start. Not long after, Oliver reaches out to Ciara and asks her out again, this time to watch a film about astronauts. After the movie, he takes her to a construction site and creates a thrilling moment by positioning her near an industrial fan, mimicking the sensation of skydiving while striking a pose inspired by a famous scene. The night continues as Oliver brings Ciara back to his luxurious apartment, leaving her clearly impressed. In the quiet that follows, their relationship becomes more intimate. Later, Ciara notices a scar on Oliver's side. He explains it away as the result of an old accident, but his anxious behavior and subtle unease suggest there is something much darker beneath the surface. That feeling grows stronger when Ciara wakes up in the middle of the night and finds Oliver awake, sitting alone in meditation in the living room. On the 5th day, a woman named Jane Miller suddenly approaches Ciara after seeing her leave Oliver's apartment. She warns that Oliver is not who he seems. Ciara chooses to ignore the warning and walks away, but her suspicion lingers. From a distance, she secretly takes photos of Jane. It becomes clear that Ciara has also been documenting items inside Oliver's apartment, including syringes and a locked safe. We are then shown Ciara's notes filled with facts about space. At that moment, the story briefly returns to the first day, revealing Ciara preparing herself, practicing a scripted identity as Ciara Wise. Pieces of a fake identity are visible, confirming that their meeting was never a coincidence. Ciara deliberately staged the encounter to get close to Oliver. Meanwhile, Oliver begins digging into Ciara's background. He searches for her online but finds almost nothing, aside from a nearly empty LinkedIn profile, which only deepens his suspicion. Back in the present, at the crime scene, Detective Carl informs Lee that an autopsy has been scheduled. Lee doubts the body can even be identified, considering how badly it was destroyed. In the bathtub, they find bleach and oven cleaner, clear signs of an attempt to erase evidence. Around the apartment, they also discover several suspicious items, including Ciara's green coat, a safe hidden in Oliver's closet, and a small bottle that appears to contain narcotics. At this point, the detectives still do not know who Oliver and Ciara really are. However, based on the evidence, they believe the apartment was occupied by a couple and suspect that the man may have killed the woman. By the 9th day, Shahila leaves Ciara a message, explaining that their mother has been crying while looking at old family photos. Ciara ignores it. Instead, she focuses on taking seductive photos of herself to send to Oliver, while inviting him to meet for lunch. They meet at a restaurant, where Ciara begins to notice something unusual about Oliver. He only uses cash and avoids credit cards entirely. He explains it as a lack of trust in financial systems, claiming he prefers to keep his money secure. In return, he questions Ciara about her lack of social media. She brushes it off by saying her sibling's identity was once stolen, which made her stay away from the internet altogether. Still curious, Oliver decides to visit Ciara's place that very night. As soon as she hears this, Ciara rushes home and starts covering her tracks. She removes pieces of her fake identity and even goes as far as pulling off parts of the wall trim to collect termites, relocating them to make her apartment look more convincingly damaged. She also sets an alarm on her phone, preparing for what comes next. Back in the present, at the crime scene, Carl notices Lee speaking to a man in a way that feels a bit too familiar. Lee quickly dismisses his suspicion, claiming the man is just a witness who supplies drugs to a tech officer. Even so, Carl is not fully convinced. They continue their investigation inside Unit 11 and uncover more disturbing details. They find an oven heater that appears to have been used in the process of destroying the body. It becomes clear that whoever did this likely searched online for instructions. Nearby, they find a freshly cleaned jacket in the sink, which raises a new possibility. The scene may have been staged. The property manager, Kevin, steps in and reveals that the apartment belongs to Elliot Burhan and was rented by Oliver Kennedy. Carl finally obtains Oliver's identity and prints out the information before heading to see his superior, Russo. But instead of focusing on Oliver, Carl asks Russo to track the license plate of the man Lee was speaking to earlier. Back to day 9, Oliver arrives at Ciara's apartment. She feels embarrassed by the condition of her place, but Oliver reassures her, downplaying how bad it looks. At one point, Ciara excuses herself to the bathroom, giving Oliver a brief moment alone. He begins to look around the apartment, but before he can dig deeper, Ciara returns. On day 10, Oliver stays the night. The next morning, Ciara pretends to receive a phone call, which is actually just her preset alarm. She acts as if her landlord is forcing her out for 3 weeks due to renovations and pest control. This pushes Oliver to offer her a place to stay in his apartment. Ciara hesitates at first, then eventually agrees. After leaving Ciara's place, Oliver returns home and checks his mail. One letter catches his attention, addressed to Oliver St. Ledger. At the same time, Ciara begins researching a company with the same name she saw in that letter. When Oliver opens it, he finds nothing inside, which only deepens his anxiety. At that point, he contacts his therapist, Traxler. During their session, it is revealed that Oliver St. Ledger is his real name. He has been living under a false identity, trying to escape a dark past. Despite everything he has done to disappear, Oliver is convinced that someone is still tracking him. When Traxler learns about his relationship with Ciara, he strongly advises Oliver to end it and get rid of the letter for his own safety. Oliver agrees to destroy the letter, but he does not follow through on ending the relationship. Instead, he reaches out to Ciara and asks her to move in with him as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Ciara calls her mother. During the call, her mother refers to her by a different name, Megan. It becomes clear that Ciara is not who she claims to be. Her mother talks about their worsening situation, explaining that the bank is about to seize their home because they can no longer pay off her father's debt. Ciara promises to find $10,000 and send it to her. Even when her mother doubts her, Ciara insists that she will get the money from the people who ruined their lives. Still in the past, Oliver's boss, Elliot Burhan, is seen discussing Oliver with his wife, Allison. Allison believes Oliver is unstable and behaves strangely, and she wants him fired, but Elliot refuses. Oliver's father is an investor in their company, and Elliot feels he owes him. Back in the present, Detective Lee speaks with Elliot, who is now grieving after losing Allison in an accident a few weeks earlier. Lee asks when he last saw Oliver and brings up a bottle of sedatives found in Unit 11, suggesting it might be connected to the murder. Elliot seems ready to share something important about Oliver, but he stops himself when Carl arrives and reveals that Oliver Kennedy is not his real name. Elliot falls silent and leaves, visibly shaken. At the end of day 10, Kira officially moves into Oliver's apartment. That night, after they spend time together, Oliver is once again haunted by his past. He cannot sleep without injecting himself with a sedative. When Kira falls asleep, he quietly injects the drug into his arm and soon loses consciousness. Moments later, Sierra wakes up, walks over to the safe, and begins trying to unlock it using several passcodes she has already prepared. On day 11, Sierra brings up the injection to Oliver. He explains that his doctor prescribed propofol to treat his severe insomnia, which is caused by deep anxiety tied to his past mistakes. As Oliver unlocks his phone, Sierra carefully watches and memorizes his passcode without him noticing. Back in the present, Detective Lee follows Elliot, hoping to get more information about Oliver. Instead, Elliot asks her to leave Oliver alone. That response leads Lee to believe that Elliot is protecting Oliver, and that Oliver might still be alive. On day 12, Oliver drops Kiera off at her workplace. From a distance, he notices Jane standing outside the building. Sierra claims she does not know her. Once Oliver leaves, Sierra immediately confronts Jane and firmly warns her to stay away. Sierra then walks into the building, only to exit through the back door moments later while removing her ID badge. This confirms that she never actually worked there. She stops by a coffee shop and calls Shahila, revealing that she plans to take money from the St. Ledger Company. This worries Shahila deeply. Meanwhile, Oliver gives another strong presentation at work. Elliot praises him and even lets him leave early. Oliver then heads to the tech company to pick up Sierra, but she is not there. Suddenly, Kiera comes running into the crowded lobby and falls right in front of him.
Oh, are you okay?
Ah, fuck, yeah, I'm okay.
Oliver quickly shifts the attention away from the situation and carries her out, trying to cover the awkward moment. Oliver and Sierra return to the apartment. Sierra heads into the bedroom and removes her earrings, the same earrings that will later be found in the bathtub by investigators. At the same time, Oliver receives another letter, this time containing a phone number. He calls it, but panic takes over and he quickly hangs up. As the days pass, Oliver's insomnia grows worse. His anxiety intensifies to the point where he starts hallucinating a red-haired woman appearing in different places around him. He visits his therapist, Traxler, explaining that he has run out of medication and that his condition is spiraling again. He also shares his fear about the woman who seems to be following him, something he believes is tied to the guilt from his past. In response, Traxler prescribes medication for panic attacks. Ironically, this same medication will later be discovered by Detective Lee in Oliver's apartment, revealing that Oliver has been using it not just for anxiety, but also to force himself to sleep. While Oliver is away, Kira searches through the trash and finds a letter containing bank account information. Taking a risk, she pretends to be Oliver's mother and attempts to withdraw $10,000 from his investment account. The plan fails completely. Things only get worse when Oliver's real mother is notified about suspicious activity linked to her name. Back in the present, Detective Lee finds the same letter that Kiera once discovered. Around the same time, Russo informs Carl about Linus Finch, the man Lee had been seen talking to. Linus comes from a wealthy background and was previously arrested for drug possession. Russo begins to suspect there is a connection between Lee and Linus and asks Carl to push Lee into revealing the truth about their relationship. Returning to the past, Kara is once again trying to open Oliver's safe. Meanwhile, Oliver is on his way to the room but gets briefly stopped by Kevin, who greets him. Oliver arrives just in time to see Kira stepping out of the closet. He looks at her with suspicion, but Kira casually removes her clothes and walks into the bathroom, brushing off the moment. Back in the present, Carl pressures Lee to come clean about her connection to Linus. Lee resists, saying that revealing the truth would destroy everything. She asks for one more day to focus on the murder case. Through further investigation, a major revelation comes to light. Oliver is actually the son of billionaire investor Casper St. Ledger. His family is from Narragansett, Rhode Island, the same place where Shahila lives. Records also show that Oliver once disappeared after being involved in a first-degree murder case. Over the years, he has repeatedly changed his identity, and more shockingly, he is known as the Narrow River Killer. On day 16, Sierra deliberately uses Oliver's shirt as an excuse for being inside his closet. Oliver insists that the safe inside does not belong to him, but Sierra plays it off as if she never saw anything. Later, when Oliver leaves for work without his laptop, Sierra takes the opportunity to access his emails, which contain financial information. She discovers an email from Zurich Equity Partners and manages to log into his account. What she finds shocks her. The account holds over $11 million. Without hesitation, she initiates a transaction and transfers $100,000 to the Narrow River Memorial Fund. Even though the transfer will take about 2 weeks to process, Kara feels satisfied with what she has done. In the present timeline, detectives Carl and Lee finally uncover Oliver's true identity. He is revealed to be responsible for a brutal killing at Narrow River back in June 2009, where a prep school student named Paul Sparling lost his life. At the time, the crime was pinned on another student, Shane Martin. But the truth points to Oliver St. Ledger as the real killer. The investigation also exposes his wealthy family background and highlights how the case was mishandled, allowing him to walk free. Lee then calls the number found in the letter addressed to Oliver. A voicemail confirms that the number belongs to Jane Miller. Back in the past, Jane is seen secretly taking photos of Oliver at the gym, clearly keeping a close watch on him. At the same time, Kira calls Shahila and reveals that she has successfully secured money from the St. Ledger account. Despite that, she chooses not to return home yet, as she is starting to feel comfortable with her life alongside Oliver. In the present, initial autopsy results suggest that the body found in the bathtub is a woman. Lee suspects it could be Jane, especially after noticing that her mailbox is overflowing, a sign that she has been missing. Soon after, the police report that Jane's car has been found in the parking lot, badly damaged. The situation becomes even more surprising when they discover that Jane actually lives in Unit 7 of the same apartment building. The story then returns to the past, showing that it was Oliver who damaged Jane's car. After spotting her leaving the gym, he follows her and calls the number from the letter, which leads directly to Jane's phone. He quickly hangs up and continues to track her. His surprise grows when he realizes that Jane lives in the same building as him. In the parking area, Jane becomes aware that she is being followed, leading to a tense chase. Frustrated and overwhelmed, Oliver lashes out and destroys her car. The property manager, Kevin, witnesses the incident and confronts him. However, instead of reporting it, Kevin offers to erase the CCTV footage in exchange for money. Oliver agrees and even asks Kevin to hit him, creating a staged situation to support his version of events. Back in the present, Carl meets Kevin to review the CCTV footage, only to find that it has already been deleted. This raises suspicion, and Carl begins to wonder if Kevin could be the masked figure who triggered the fire alarm. Kevin denies any involvement. Meanwhile, Lee attempts to contact Jane at her apartment, but without a warrant, she cannot enter. Back in the past, Oliver returns to his apartment in a state of frustration. He contacts his therapist, Traxler, and explains that Jane has been following him. Unaware that Ciara is nearby, he vents about the situation while Traxler advises him to stay calm and not let his emotions take control. At one point, Traxler hears a faint sound and begins to suspect that someone else is there. He warns Oliver that Ciara might be a problem and suggests ending the relationship. Before the session can continue, Ciara steps in and shuts the laptop, cutting the call short. She feels that Oliver relies too much on his therapist. This quickly turns into a heated argument. Oliver pushes back, insisting that she respect his privacy and stop interfering in his personal matters. Trying to escape the tension, Oliver goes to visit Jane at her apartment. He approaches her calmly, but the situation is far from comfortable. The moment becomes more intense when Jane makes it clear that she knows exactly who Oliver is and what he has done in the past. Oliver leaves the encounter after delivering a serious warning. Back in the present, Detective Lee finally comes clean about Linus Finch. It is revealed that Linus was once a suspect in a shooting case and had bribed Lee to stay away from it. She initially resisted, but eventually accepted money and expensive gifts. Recently, she reached out to Linus again, hoping he might have information about Oliver. Carl is deeply disappointed by her confession, while Lee clearly regrets her choices. After securing a search warrant, the two of them enter Jane's apartment. The place is empty, but something stands out. The unit feels very familiar, and they soon realize it belongs to the same owner as Oliver's apartment, Elliot Berhane. Returning to the past after meeting Jane, Oliver goes back to his apartment and apologizes to Shira for their earlier argument. The tension fades, and their connection grows stronger. In a moment of honesty, Shira admits that she tried to open his safe. She insists it was not about stealing anything, but rather her curiosity and desire to understand him better. As time goes on, their relationship becomes even closer. By day 32, Kira invites Oliver to celebrate St. Patrick's Day in an unusual way. They take a high dose of the panic medication prescribed by Traxler, seeking to lose control together and explore their minds. Oliver hesitates at first, but eventually agrees. They join the parade and fully embrace the chaos around them. At the same time, Shahila receives a notification that $100,000 has appeared in her account, confirming that Kara's earlier transfer has gone through successfully. In the present, Lee and Carl continue their investigation inside Jane's apartment. They begin to suspect that Jane may have been killed there before her body was moved to Oliver's unit to be destroyed. As they search the room, Lee finds evidence of Jane's investigation into Oliver, including photos, surveillance materials, and even a copy of his identification. Then, in a sudden twist, Jane unexpectedly returns home alive. This completely shatters the detective's earlier assumption that she was the body found in the bathtub. During the interrogation, Jane explains that she is a part-time reporter working on a story about Oliver St. Ledger and his powerful family. She admits that she deliberately sent those letters to pressure Oliver, hoping he would eventually reveal his dark past in an exclusive interview. Jane also claims that Oliver's girlfriend, Ciara, is nothing more than a con artist who got close to him for his money. She goes even further, suggesting that Ciara may have been killed by Oliver after learning too much about his secrets. On top of that, Jane accuses Oliver of being responsible for the death of Allison, Elliot Berhane's wife. In the middle of the interrogation, Carl receives a call from Russo asking for an update on Linus Finch. Carl chooses to lie, knowing that the truth could destroy Lee's career. While continuing to search Jane's apartment, Carl discovers something important. He finds a layout of Oliver's apartment along with photos of the body in the bathroom. This leads him to a key realization: Jane is the masked figure seen at the very beginning. Back on day 32, during St. Patrick's Day, Oliver and Shara unexpectedly run into Elliot. He insists they join him for drinks and brings them to a table where Allison and Jane are already sitting. Oliver is clearly surprised and tries to understand how they all know each other. It turns out Jane once helped Elliot and Allison avoid a forgery scandal at a museum years earlier. As a way of repaying that favor, Elliot allowed Jane to stay in one of his vacant apartments while she worked on her story. Feeling uneasy, Oliver pulls Elliot aside and warns him about Jane, explaining that she has been following him and digging into his life. Elliot advises him to be honest with Ciara if he truly wants their relationship to work. But Oliver hesitates, remembering how a past relationship fell apart when his secrets were exposed. Meanwhile, Allison and Jane approach Ciara and warn her that Oliver is dangerous and capable of murder. Surprisingly, Ciara reveals that she already knows everything about him. This catches both women off guard. They then try to convince her to persuade Oliver into giving an interview. At that moment, Ciara receives a message from Shahila asking her to call. She slips away to the restroom, which makes Oliver think she has left him. Elliot tries to calm him down, promising to deal with Jane. Inside the restroom, Ciara contacts Shahila. Shahila is worried about the large amount of money that was transferred earlier, but Ciara reassures her that Oliver has more than enough. She also hints that she may have developed real feelings for him, which only disgusts Shahila and leads her to end the call. As Ciara prepares to leave the restroom, she realizes that Jane has been listening the entire time. Jane confronts her and threatens to report her to the police for stealing from the St. Ledger family, unless Ciara agrees to give a false interview, portraying herself as Oliver's victim. Instead of backing down, Ciara reacts instantly. She attacks Jane and makes it clear that she will never reveal anything about Oliver. At the same time, a heavily intoxicated Allison is seen talking to Elliot. Their conversation reveals that Allison was the one who pushed Jane to target Oliver as part of a story, hoping it would revive Jane's declining career. Allison openly despises Oliver and accuses Elliot of protecting him because of his lingering connection to Oliver's father. It is also revealed that Oliver is Elliot's godson. Not long after, Kara finds Oliver in the middle of a panic attack. She takes him outside and urges him to open up about his past so he can free himself from the anxiety. But Oliver refuses, afraid that the truth will make him lose her. Instead, Ciara offers to share her own secret first. She puts earphones on him and plays calming music. Once she is sure he can no longer see or hear her clearly, Ciara finally reveals the truth. Her real name is Megan. Their meeting was never an accident. She planned everything from the beginning to get close to him and seek justice for what he did to her family. She knows exactly what happened at the river that day. For years, she believed Oliver was a monster. But despite everything, she admits that part of her still wants to understand him. Deep down, she wants to love him, if only he would trust her. After she finishes, Oliver opens his eyes. Ciara, or Megan, is gone. He searches for her, but instead runs into Allison. She confronts him with her hatred, accusing him and his father of taking advantage of Elliot's kindness. The tension escalates, and it becomes clear that Elliot once had deep feelings for Oliver's father. Oliver responds by accusing Allison of being jealous, which only makes things worse. She storms off, and Oliver chases after her. Moments later, tragedy strikes when Allison is hit by a truck and killed. Back in the present, Carl and Lee discover a mask and robe inside Jane's apartment. This confirms that Jane is the masked figure from the opening scene. Based on this evidence, Jane is taken into custody. After leaving the scene, Carl goes alone to the hospital. Lee has secretly gone off with Linus Finch. Carl wants to observe the autopsy of the body found in the bathtub. However, due to the condition of the remains, the forensic team says it will take about a week to get full results. Carl presses for any early findings, and the doctor suggests that the body may actually belong to a man. Returning to the past, Shara prepares to leave Oliver's apartment. Before she can go, Oliver stops her and agrees to finally tell the truth. He reveals that back in high school, a boy drowned in Narrow River in Rhode Island, and he was involved. During their final year, Oliver went to the river with two friends, Paul Sparling and Shane Martin. He had always felt jealous of Paul's confidence. Their friendship was close, but often tense. One day, a fight broke out between Paul and Shane. They ended up in the water, where Shane forced Paul's head underwater. Oliver stood there and watched as Paul was drowned. Oliver admits that he feels guilty for not telling Ciara the truth from the beginning, but Ciara does not believe him. She is convinced he is lying. With anger and disappointment, she leaves the apartment, warning him before she goes. Oliver is left behind, completely confused, unable to understand what he did wrong. Ciara decides to return to her apartment, but she is shocked to find Shahila already waiting inside. Her secret identity as Ciara Wise is now exposed. Shahila is furious after realizing that Ciara got close to Oliver mainly for his money, but Ciara defends him, explaining that Oliver has been undergoing therapy with Traxler because of the mistakes he made in the past. Even so, Shahila sees the bigger danger. If the St. Ledger family finds out about the stolen money, Ciara will be hunted down and imprisoned. Convinced there is only one way out, Shahila pulls out a gun and declares that eliminating Oliver is the only solution to protect her sister. At the same time, Oliver is left feeling empty after losing the woman he loves. Driven by confusion and desperation, he goes to Ciara's apartment, only to find that she has already left. The only thing he finds is her work access card. When he asks around, a resident confirms that there were never any renovations or pest control in the building. That is when Oliver realizes Ciara had been lying. He then checks her workplace, but no one there has ever heard of Ciara Wise. Back in the present, Detective Lee is out with Linus Finch. Carl calls her with an update, revealing that the body in the bathtub belongs to a man, possibly Oliver. But Lee is too distracted by Linus to fully process the information. Carl senses something is off and decides to track her location. Meanwhile, Lee tries to end her secret relationship with Linus. Instead of letting her go, Linus becomes aggressive and starts to threaten her. The situation escalates quickly, but Carl arrives just in time and pulls Linus out of the car.
Say that shit again! If you ever come near my partner again, I will press your reset button!
In the end, Linus seems almost pleased that Carl now knows the truth about their relationship. He leaves without resistance. Carl, however, is furious with Lee for lying to him. Despite the tension between them, they both realize they still need to work together on the case. Before leaving, Carl quietly takes a gold necklace from Linus and slips it into his pocket. The story then shifts back to the past. Oliver returns to his apartment in a chaotic state after realizing that his entire relationship with Ciara was built on lies. Overwhelmed, he injects himself with propofol to escape reality. But just before losing consciousness, he discovers Ciara's notebook, filled with detailed research about him. At the same time, Shahila storms into Traxler's office and causes a scene. She publicly accuses him of being manipulative and dangerous in front of his patients. She reveals that Ciara is actually her sister, Megan Martin. Shahila demands that Traxler keep Oliver away from her, or she will take matters into her own hands. Traxler quickly calls Oliver to warn him that Ciara is really Megan, the sister of Shane Martin, and that she is seeking revenge. But Oliver is already unconscious in the bathroom under the effects of the drug. At that exact moment, someone steps in and takes the phone. It is Ciara. She calmly tells Traxler that Oliver already knows who she really is. Back in the present, detectives Lee and Carl begin to believe that the body in the bathtub belongs to Oliver. With that assumption, they decide to visit the mother of Paul Sparling, Oliver's former schoolmate. The detectives suspect that Paul's family may have taken revenge after learning the truth about what happened years ago. The story then shifts back 16 years into the past. At that time, Oliver and Ciara's brother, Shane Martin, are spending time at their usual spot by the river. Their conversation reveals the contrast between their lives. Shane comes from a struggling family, while Oliver grows up surrounded by wealth. Shane jokes about wanting Oliver's life, but despite his privileged background, Oliver admits he has always felt alone, raised by parents who were never truly present. The moment feels calm until Paul Sparling arrives. Shane had invited him, which immediately makes Oliver uneasy. Paul has a reputation for causing trouble, especially after dealing with his parents' divorce. He takes out his frustration on Oliver, questioning why they are not hanging out at Oliver's luxurious home. The tension escalates quickly. Paul begins insulting Shane's mother, referencing an incident involving accusations of theft that had even made it into the news. Even though Shane tries to apologize, Paul cannot control his anger, and the situation turns physical.
Hey, guys! Take a second, okay?
Oliver attempts to break it up, but Paul throws him down into the sand. When Oliver gets back up, he sees Paul dragging Shane into the water and continuing to attack him. After Paul dies, Oliver brings Shane home. Overwhelmed with guilt, Oliver wants to report what happened as self-defense. But Shane refuses, insisting that Oliver was the one who initiated the attack. He convinces Oliver to keep everything a secret. When Shane arrives home, Megan notices something is wrong and questions him, especially about the injuries on his face. Shane reacts angrily and shuts her down. Meanwhile, Oliver continues living with crushing guilt until he finally decides to call his father and confess that he killed Paul. He explains that only the three of them were at the river. His father then makes a calculated decision to shift the blame onto Shane. During the investigation, Shane is consumed by anger and even attempts to attack Oliver. Oliver returns home, filled with guilt, and ends up hurting himself in the same place where Shane had been injured. At the same time, Megan practices a script in front of a mirror. Her mother catches her, and Megan explains that she wants to testify in court for Shane, since she saw Oliver bring him home that evening. But her mother does not believe her. Instead, she scolds her and assumes she is only seeking attention. In the end, with the influence and wealth of the St. Ledger family, Shane Martin is convicted of Paul's murder. As Oliver's mental state continues to decline, he eventually crosses paths with Traxler, who is working as a school counselor at the time. Recognizing Oliver's fragile condition, Traxler sees an opportunity and begins to take advantage of it for his own gain. Traxler subtly convinces Oliver that he needs professional help. That suggestion leads Oliver's father to step in, agreeing to pay $25,000 a month for Traxler to become his son's therapist. Instead of helping him heal, Traxler keeps Oliver trapped in fear, making sure he remains dependent on him. As a result, even after years of therapy, Oliver never truly gets better. At one point, Oliver writes a confession letter addressed to Shane Martin, finally admitting his guilt, but he is too afraid to deliver it himself. Traxler offers to take care of it, yet he never actually sends the letter. To protect his financial arrangement with Oliver's father, Traxler takes things even further. He begins manipulating Shane, planting ideas in his mind. He tells him about a similar case where an innocent person from a poor family was imprisoned for a crime committed by someone wealthy, and how that situation destroyed the victim's family. He pushes Shane to think about the burden his existence places on his loved ones. Once Traxler realizes Shane is affected, he introduces a dangerous idea. He explains that if a prisoner dies before their appeal, the charges against them can be erased. Not long after, news breaks that Shane Martin has taken his own life in prison. The aftermath is devastating. Oliver is consumed by guilt. The Martin family is shattered, and Megan's mother, Christy, begins to lose her mental stability. A young Shahila confronts Traxler at his office, accusing him of being responsible for Shane's death. Traxler tries to manipulate her as well, but this time it backfires. Shahila attacks him and leaves without fear, even when he threatens to call the police.
Asking a real and just to make it final.
Fuck you.
Okay.
Back at home, Megan feels guilty for not telling the truth sooner, but Shahila reassures her, saying that no matter what she did, the outcome would have been the same. In the present timeline, detectives Carl and Lee arrive at the Martin house. They now know that Kiara is actually Megan. However, Shahila claims she has no idea where Megan is and suggests that she may never return. On day 33, Oliver finally regains consciousness after collapsing in the bathroom. As he begins to understand everything, Kiara admits the truth. She reveals that her original intention was to hurt him. But after seeing how deeply he has suffered because of his past, her feelings change. A brief memory shows her throwing away the gun Shahila had given her. Oliver apologizes for hiding the truth for so long. Despite having many chances, he finally admits his responsibility and acknowledges that Shane never deserved what happened to him. Shara is moved by his honesty. In that moment, they come together and confess their love for each other. The story then jumps back even further, to 137 days earlier. This is where we see how Ciara carefully planned everything. At the time, Shahila and their mother were on the verge of losing their home to the bank. Megan begins researching Oliver online and discovers that he has moved to Boston. From Shane's old yearbook, she learns about Oliver's interest in space and NASA. Using that information, she starts following him in real life. She eventually moves to Boston, creates a fake identity as Ciara Wise, and carefully sets the stage for their first meeting at the supermarket. Back in the present, Carl and Lee are left confused about Ciara's whereabouts. They question whether she is still alive somewhere, with or without Oliver. Suddenly, their car window is shattered by an unknown attacker. After the scene is secured, Lee becomes convinced that Linus is behind it. She fears he might try to kill her after being rejected, but Carl reassures her, believing it will not come to that. On day 34, Ciara and Oliver appear to have returned to their relationship, but everything changes when Traxler unexpectedly shows up at Oliver's apartment and is shocked to see Ciara there. He pulls Oliver aside and urges him to leave her, accusing Ciara of being with him only for his money. This time Oliver pushes back. He defends Ciara and turns the accusation around, realizing that Traxler has been exploiting his unstable mental state for personal gain. With that realization, Oliver decides to cut ties with him completely. Traxler does not take it lightly. He threatens to expose all of Oliver's secrets, including the confession letter about Paul's death. That is when Oliver realizes the truth. Traxler never delivered the letter to Shane. Instead, he kept it as leverage. Traxler demands money in exchange for his silence. But before things can go any further, Ciara steps in. Having overheard everything, she strikes Traxler, hitting him hard enough to cause a fatal injury. Panic quickly sets in. Not knowing what to do, Shara calls Shahila, the only person she trusts. Shahila gives them clear instructions. They must destroy the body by reducing it to bones, making it harder for the police to identify the victim. This will buy them time to escape. Following her plan, they begin staging the crime scene. They scatter personal items around the apartment to mislead investigators. That is why the police later find pieces of evidence that point in multiple directions, including Ciara's earring in the bathtub. Before ending the call, Shahila gives Ciara one final message. She tells her not to come back home. That moment hits Ciara hard, but there is no turning back now. With everything in motion, Ciara and Oliver prepare to flee using Oliver's private jet. Oliver hands over the safe code and gives Ciara all the cash he has. He asks her to meet Shahila one last time to say goodbye, then return to the airstrip where they will reunite and leave everything behind. Not long after, Ciara meets Shahila. With mixed emotions, she explains that Oliver actually wanted to take responsibility for his past, but Traxler stopped him. Because of that, they believe Traxler deserved what happened to him. Shahila, who refuses to see her sister end up in prison like Shane, fully supports Ciara's decision to run. At the same time, Oliver goes to see Elliot and thanks him for everything he has done. He confesses that Ciara was the one who killed Traxler, but he still feels responsible for it. Overcome with guilt, Oliver considers turning himself in to the police so Ciara can have a chance at a clean life. Elliot tries to stop him, insisting that sacrificing himself is not what Ciara would want. Even so, Oliver stands outside a police station, seriously weighing his decision. Meanwhile, Shara waits at the airstrip. There is a moment of uncertainty, but Oliver eventually arrives. They prepare to leave everything behind. At the last minute, Shara decides against the destination Oliver had planned, and they choose a different country instead. Back in the present, the autopsy results finally come in. The cause of death is blunt force trauma to the head, leading to fatal bleeding. The victim died weeks earlier, not on the day the alarm was triggered. DNA confirms the body belongs to Dan Traxler. Carl and Lee continue their investigation and uncover more about Traxler's past. He had a criminal record for running an illegal practice and smuggling stolen propofol from overseas. His car was found at the crossings and had been impounded weeks earlier. All signs point toward Ciara and Oliver as the ones responsible for his death. This suspicion is reinforced when Carl reviews CCTV footage and sees Traxler entering Oliver's apartment on the 18th, with no record of him ever leaving. Russo later meets with the detectives, but her visit frustrates Lee as she demands the truth about Lee's connection to Linus Finch. Wanting to protect Lee, Carl comes up with a plan. He suggests framing Linus as Traxler's drug supplier, using the gold necklace he secretly took from him. They begin spreading the idea and plant the necklace in the evidence room to redirect suspicion. At the same time, Lee finally confesses everything about her relationship with Linus to Russo. She asked to be removed from the case along with Carl, since Linus could now be considered a suspect. To avoid any conflict of interest, Russo agrees and pulls them off the investigation. Not long after, a new detective assigned to the case discovers Linus's necklace among the evidence. The plan works, and news soon breaks, naming Linus as the prime suspect. Shahila later reads the article, realizing how everything has been shifted away from Kiara and Oliver. Later, Lee visits Carl at his home. The two share a quiet moment, reflecting on the case and wondering who delivered the fatal blow to Traxler. Lee believes it was Kiara, driven by her fear of losing Oliver. Weeks pass, and Ciara sends a letter to her mother, Christy, apologizing for everything. In the letter, she explains that Oliver is not as cruel as they once believed. She also includes a check for $2 million, enough to free her family from their financial struggles and serve as a form of redemption for Oliver's past. Months later, the story comes to a close. Kira and Oliver are now living together by the coast, far away from everything they left behind. Sierra, now with blonde hair, holds their child in her arms, a boy she names Shane Martin. After everything they have been through, they finally find a sense of peace and build a life together. So the moral of the story is, if your crush has 3 identities, a mystery safe, a stalker neighbor, and a therapist who acts like a Netflix villain, maybe just stay single and go to IKEA instead.